Hello all and welcome to our latest residential chat room. My name is Ludo Downey. I'm the director of CBRE's Hong Kong Overseas Residential Division. I'm delighted today to be joined by Shaun Macnamara, who sits in our London office. And I'll pass over to Shaun in a second to introduce himself and a bit more about what he does and his team. But today we really want to give you an insight in terms of what's happening in the UK market at the moment, what life is like on the ground, and no better person really than the guy that heads up our teams in the UK, in Shaun. So Shaun, thank you for joining me, and pleasure to have you on. Can you give our clients a bit of a background in terms of your role and what you do for CBRE?
Yep, thanks Ludo, and nice to be on today. So my name is Shaun Macnamara and I head up our sales division across the whole of London. This looks after everything from our new homes to our second-hand stock. We obviously have a number of sites across London, everything from east to west, north to south, and central as well. And then we also have our offices as well, which cover our resales, which are based within central London and also kind of Canary Wharf. We've got quite a large team over here. Overall, residential has a team of up to 150 within London. So we've got quite expansive kind of coverage, and we've obviously seen kind of a really interesting kind of last couple of years, which obviously I'll talk you through, but obviously in a very exciting start to 2022, which obviously I'm looking forward to, as I said, obviously chatting to you about today.
Perfect, thank you. And a question we always get asked on the ground here, and it would be great to get your insight on, is in terms of what you see the market doing in 2022. What are UK buyers doing? Is there anything that you would say is worth our clients here looking at, but generally your view in terms of what the market is going to look like for the next 12 months?
Yeah, so I think just to go back a couple of steps, kind of from that, obviously we've had a couple of years of COVID and the pandemic, which did change the landscape within the London market. Initially, we saw a lot of people, obviously, kind of in UK buyers moving out of London, looking for that extra bit of space, that extra bit of green space, whether or kind of internal and external space. And although this trend is, kind of is still there, we have seen it slow down over the last kind of 6 months. And really, that interest has kind of grown with the return back into central London. This really started, I suppose, the embryo of this when the return to office kind of came back into play within the UK at the end of summer last year. But it's really gone into overdrive since the beginning of this year. We've seen a huge surge of inquiries kind of coming through to our kind of schemes and our offices throughout kind of London. Even Rightmove this week basically stated that London's recorded its biggest annual jump in the number of buyers sending inquiries of any region across the UK, whereas obviously kind of beforehand throughout kind of COVID, it was always London that was at the lowest, and it's always also seen its highest annual rate of price growth since 2016. So we really expect to see this kind of continue. There is only a finite amount of stock within certain parts of London, so we'd really expect to see the market become even more competitive this year, is the forecast that we'd be expecting. Prime London and Zone 1 locations are set to grow over the coming years. And actually, with their limited supply, we've really seen a lot of UK buyers coming back into this. I think a lot of buyers have moved out of London and then realised that actually the commute's quite far and they want to kind of come back and move, move kind of closer in. And actually, this market is offering relatively good value, but with a really good potential kind of uplift. The central London market, everyone is probably aware, it's been fairly suppressed for the last kind of 4 or 5 years. Growth figures have been single digits, whereas actually over the next kind of 5 years, we're expecting to see kind of growth rates at high teens, early 20s. So it really is, kind of a good opportunity, kind of within those kind of prime and central kind of London areas. There's also been that. Oh, sorry, go on, Ludo.
No, I was going to say, I wanted to go on because we can't go and do a video like this without talking about COVID, and we've already brought it up a couple of times. Obviously, Hong Kong is in a very different position where we're sort of going into our restrictions. We are very much behind where the UK is. But from a UK perspective and someone that's on the ground and lives in London, what's it like at the moment? What are people doing? What's the feel like?
Yeah, life actually feels quite normal. And I know that's kind of seems a strange thing to say, but look, we've obviously gone through a number of lockdowns and pandemics and everything else that's kind of obviously kind of come with COVID, but we generally feel like we're coming out the other side. The office feels normal. Restaurants, pubs, shops, kind of are busy. I commute, kind of through London every day. The tubes are getting busier and busier. Kind of it's gone from, being able to choose which seat you would like to now obviously, standing room kind of only, as life kind of returns back to a bit more kind of normality. And I think that people are obviously still wearing masks in certain environments. But I think for the first time in 2 years, that day-to-day normality is really coming in and people are embracing it and also enjoying it. Look, let's not forget, kind of we need to be really sensitive around COVID. It's been incredibly disruptive and destructive for people's lives, in a number of ways. But I think if we can keep on moving forward, kind of as we are, and as you say, kind of that living with COVID, and we can make it work. But it's a hugely kind of positive kind of outlook for all of us within the UK.
That's really positive to hear, and slightly jealous from my side at the moment. And so that moves me on quite nicely then. Obviously coming out of the big restrictions in the UK, what are you seeing are the more popular areas or developments within London at the moment? And in terms of, specifically in terms of what CBRE are involved in, you cover the whole of London, as you mentioned. Are there any areas that are specifically standing out?
Yeah, I would kind of split this almost into kind of two sections, kind of looking at that kind of inner London, kind of central area, then looking at the kind of outer London kind of areas. There's starting with the kind of outer London kind of areas, then we've seen, kind of really good, kind of growth and also kind of activity, especially with a lot of the schemes that we kind of launched last year that effectively, kind of are, large regeneration kind of areas. We've got, Southmere with Peabody as an example within the east, and we've got, kind of the venue by Western Homes out in, kind of in the west in Hayes. These are, kind of, they're not standalone buildings, and I think that's obviously one of the main things that I'd always kind of, kind of advise. Is that, kind of, it's looking at what else is being built and the whole story around that development, kind of all the F&B that kind of comes with it, kind of the lifestyle. All of those kind of parts play a huge play, kind of in how your, kind of home and your investment is going to kind of take place. Crossrail is something that obviously I always say with a smile now, but Crossrail is something that we've, spoken about for years and years and years and years. But actually, it's now going to become a reality within a couple of months. So therefore, kind of, I think that kind of has actually now had a big effect for those areas where Crossrail was kind of coming in, as I've said, within, Southmere and Hayes. And it will really, kind of halve some of those commuter times coming back into London. So I think, the outer regions, kind of, I would always kind of look at the wider picture. And I'd always look at those kind of commuting times coming back in and the transport links kind of coming back into London. But I think that's, kind of definitely kind of certain areas that, I would be advising on. As I mentioned previously, the central London areas or the central business districts, we've seen, good activity kind of coming back in that, whether it be, Park Drive within kind of Canary Wharf, 101 Cleveland within the West End, or One Crown Place within the city. We've seen activity coming back into those kind of areas. And as I said, I think they genuinely offer a good opportunity at this moment in time. There is a potential, obviously, for good growth within those kind of locations. They haven't seen the growth in the past, kind of 4 or 5 years. So, really are going to be kind of on the up. There's a finite amount of stock in each of those kind of locations as well. Now, you're not going to bag a bargain, so to speak. You're going to have to pay the right price. But I think the right price today, kind of is actually, kind of a very good price, and and seeing that kind of move, obviously, kind of move forward. I suppose my final little tip would be is, kind of actually is more around kind of the unit itself. I think a lot of people during COVID, where we saw it obviously pushed for larger homes, or they pushed from a 1-bed to a 2-bedrooms apartment, whereas actually a lot of 1-bedroom apartments now that are coming to the market, slightly larger, offer that home working space or that larger entertainment space. And I actually genuinely feel that, kind of they offer good value kind of within the marketplace at the moment. So, you know, kind of rather than saying in that demand for the more competitive 2-bedrooms, then I would actually kind of have a look at some of those larger 1-bedroom apartments. As I said, I think that, you know, kind of in the marketplace at the moment, we're seeing those becoming, you know, kind of more popular, but they're still slightly behind the 2-bed. So I would definitely have a, you know, kind of my advice would be, you know, kind of keep an eye out for those nice sized 1-bedroom apartments as well.
That's really, really useful. Thank you so much. And in terms of our clients as well, obviously you mentioned CBRE have over 100 plus staff based in the UK. A number of those people work directly for yourself. In terms of the extra services that CBRE can offer, can you give us sort of some ideas in terms of what clients could expect from CBRE as a total sort of package or service line?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, obviously kind of depending on what your clients' needs and wants kind of are, we can pretty much cover kind of everything. You know, our residential department covers a lot more than just, you know, sales. You know, kind of we do development advice, we do land, we do we obviously have our private office, we have a lettings, you know, kind of and so we have many, you know, kind of facets within the residential kind of department kind of over here. On a looking at it on a more individual basis, you know, if you do purchase the property kind of through ourselves, then we can obviously let that property for you. We can obviously manage that property for you. If it comes to the stage that you then need to dispose of it, you know, kind of then we can obviously look after the sale, you know, kind of after a number of years kind of afterwards. So we can really offer that, you know, 360 kind of wraparound kind of service kind of for you. We obviously have our, you know, kind of UK kind of London China team on the ground here as well. Which, you know, kind of really kind of help out if there's any kind of, you know, language barriers and things like that kind of going through. So on an individual basis, we can really wrap ourselves kind of around you to make sure that we're kind of supporting you kind of all the way through. And I think if you stick with the same agency as well, you know, no one else will know that building and that development better than ourselves. So at every stage, we're always going to be able to offer that best advice kind of going forward. If any of your clients are looking for larger, you know, opportunities, then as I said, obviously, you know, we've got a number of different ways, you know, kind of that we can support that, you know, through our kind of capital markets team, through our kind of private office, you know, if it's that even down on, you know, development advisory work, then we have all of those kind of sectors kind of covered. So effectively, what I would say is that, you know, kind of we're here to have kind of conversations and would, you know, kind of love to meet, you know, some of your clients for us to be able to kind of offer the best service that we can.
Thank you so much. Well, look, what I'll definitely do is after this, we'll put on the screen some contact details. So anyone watching this, please do get in touch with one of the CBRE team here. We have a team full of Cantonese speakers. So if that is needed, we have that option available too. But thank you all very much for watching. From myself and Shaun, it's been great to give you a bit of insight in terms of what is actually happening on the ground in the UK. And as I said, we look forward to speaking to you all soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.